Hello, and welcome to Footnotes, in which I explore the most ravishing language and ideas from the last week of Wired. First up today, it's story time. In a Wired business piece on the Kindle and the publishing industry, Ryan Tate makes mention of the great work 1001 Nights. So there's this sultan, and his wife cheats on him. In what could be one of the biggest overreactions in all of literary history, he decides he's going to marry a new wife each day and kill her. He does this for 3 years, but then he marries a brilliant lady named Scheherazade, a kind of woman my mother would call a keeper, and not just because she has a very pretty name. This first night, she tells the Sultan a story, but leaves it at a cliffhanger, so he has no choice but to keep her alive, which is a really bratty reason to spare somebody's life. Scheherazade does this for 1001 nights, eventually receiving a pardon and changing her jerk of a husband into a somewhat more redeemable human being who nonetheless will probably never live down that whole killing 1,000 wives thing. These tales have everything: drug use, violence, heavy drinking, sex, and even flatulence in a story called, and I'm not making this up, The Historic Fart. Oddly enough, some of the most famous stories in the collection, such as Aladdin, Ali Baba, and Sinbad, were snuck in by translators. So 1001 Nights is in a sense a collaboration between East and West, featuring universal truths such as flatulence. Up next, the most holy of grails, the Holy Grail.
I don't want to waste any more of your time, but I don't suppose you could tell us where we might find a
what?
A grail?
As our most recent World's Most Wired pick, musician Luke Fishbeck is said to seek the Holy Grail that is a true connection to audiences. And whence does this relic derive? The Holy Grail actually started out as anything but. Well, it was a grail, but it wasn't really holy. In the midst of the Crusades, a French writer produced a work called Percival, the story of the Grail. And while in the castle of the Fisher King, this Percival sees a procession. There are boys carrying a candelabra and a man holding not a bloody lance, but a lance bleeding on its own, which might be the most far-fetched murder defense in all of literary history. Then comes a very pretty lady who's holding a magnificent graal, or grail. It's not a chalice, but a dish, which sucks, because therefore Percival could not drink wine out of it, though he never outwardly complained about this. The grail only became a chalice 10 years later, when another Frenchman wrote a story identifying it as the vessel that caught Jesus' blood at the crucifixion. Joseph of Arimathea supposedly sent the grail to Britain, and consequently, the heroes of British medieval literature are all antsy in their pantsy for it. These were the knights errant who wandered around cracking skulls and saving women and other serious business. This was best cataloged in Monty Python and the Holy Grail, itself a reworking of the 1001 Nights tale, 'Tis But a Scratch.
Now stand aside, worthy adversary.
'Tis but a scratch.
A scratch? Your arm's off.
No, it isn't.
Well, what's that then?
I've heard worse.
You liar.
Come on, you pansy.